Good morning.
In there on and just double checking that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we're good.
Yep. Look good to me.
Just a
Thanks
couple of
for-
things.
Yep, go
Yes.
ahead.
Had a good practice the last 2 days. Impressed with the guys today. I thought they had a lot of energy and they're excited about playing and really starting the season over since it's been 3 weeks. I'm very impressed with Jeff Hafley. I've heard a lot about him from guys like Greg Schiano and Urban Meyer and Ryan Day and Jay. But they're a well-coached team. He's really smart. He's got a lot of energy. They played hard and did a tremendous job with a new staff coming back from a deficit last week. So I think he's a real superstar for the future when we start looking at young coaches that are doing a great job, and that's always exciting for me. And Steve Adazio, who's a dear friend of mine, left some really good players, and Jeff's done a good job of bringing in some transfers. So like Larry Fedora left us good players, Boston College has got a chance to have a really good year. So it'll be a real challenge for us going up there. We're also having midterms this week. So these guys have been incredible. They've got COVID, they've got social injustice, they've got midterms, they've got travel, which will be different for them this year. We had they're lined up for their COVID test right now, their second one of the 3 that they have for this week. So these guys have really been something. They're special young people, and I can't wait to watch them play on Saturday.
All right, guys, please use the raise hand function here, and we'll get questions for Coach Brown. First question will come from CL Brown. So CL, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Just as a follow-up, and I hate to keep asking you about this eligibility rule for next year, but I was curious, could you conceivably see situations where, especially, specifically for seniors, that they're allowed to stay on scholarship to finish out their studies, but they're no longer playing football?
CL, the way I understand it, and you should be asking because it's confusing, the way, and we've never had it before. The way I understand it is that if they graduate, you do not have to bring them back. You can, but you don't have to. They may not want to come back. They may get the business world. They may go to the NFL, but you could bring them back if you want to, and this year doesn't count as their year. I haven't thought about why a young person would want to come back and go to school and not play. But if he has graduated, that's the way I understand the rule, and we can get compliance to check it for everybody. The way I understand it is if they've graduated, the university does not have to bring them back.
Okay. And secondly, switching to the road and travel aspect of this weekend, what's probably your biggest concern of making sure, especially for the young people, it's going to be their first road game or road trip? What's kind of the top of the priority of your concern, making sure that they understand that this, they have to do things this kind of way in order to be successful?
The biggest concern to me is twofold. Number one, they haven't worn the N95 mask. So that's something they'll have to get used to. And we asked today, they said they could wear a shield if they wanted to over their mask. And I said, can they wear their normal mask? Because they wear the Gators, most of the time. So I just said, do you have to wear the N95? And yes, you do. So that's a requirement. So that'll be different for them. And they have to wear it on the bus and the plane. The second part would be hydration. They're not going to be able to drink fluids on the bus or the plane. I think it's a 2-hour flight. So we've got to make sure that they hydrate before and after really well and while they're there. And other than that, there's some inconveniences and differences. We can't eat our after game meal on the plane like we normally would. So we'll actually sit in the stands at Boston College and eat the meal after the game. So there's things like that are different. We probably will do everything else like we did here. and that's the hotel we're used to. We're sending Joe Hayden up early. He's driving up to make sure that we can have 2 at each table, so we can social distance while we eat, because here we had to grab and go for our pregame meal. And if it's not safe in our minds when we get there to all eat at the same time, we'll do the same thing. We had some of our players on Zoom for the pregame talk for our opening game. So what we've told the guys is it's all going to be different. This year is going to be different. Maybe different next year. Who knows when this is going to change? And the teams that play the best will be the ones that can adapt to it without griping about it, because it is what it is.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Aaron Beard.
Hey, Mac, I know Jeremy's usually the rundown guy with injuries, but I did want to ask, did Zudu and the guys that have been practicing, everything, you were optimistic Monday, anything change on that front since then?
Yeah, we're going to have to wait and see how Josh Azudu is in pregame. So he's not 100% back yet. So that'll probably be a game time decision. Everybody else should be ready to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Aaron,
All right,
you still owe us that imitation of me at some point. I mean, I think this group deserves to hear it in front of me. Now, it may be a late season thing, but you still owe us that. From what I've heard, it's the best, because I had some players do it the other day and they really stunk. They weren't very good. So I'm expecting yours to be better than me. So if we have a few radio shows that I can't make, we need to put you on. We got it.
Well, to be fair, mine was probably more of you from 1997 from college, so it's probably older than the impression of some of your – actually older than your players are. So anyway, thanks, Mac.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right, let's go over to Andrew Jones.
Hey, Coach, you don't have to worry about me trying to impersonate you. That would be a big fail. In the last 2 weeks, while your team was not playing, Boston College pulled away on the road and won a game, and then came from behind at home and won a game. They obviously have whatever kind of necessary edge at this point that you need in the middle of the season. How important is it for your team to kind of get up to that level of edge early in the game Saturday?
Andrew, you always want to jump on somebody if you can. And usually when I say this is important to do this, it doesn't happen. And you're sitting there at the first quarter mad because nothing that you planned happened. So the biggest thing is you got to be you. You got to – I've always told the guys, you give me 100%, I'm going to give you 100% back. And that's who we are. And that's what we want. And that's the way practice was today. And it's everybody. It's the whole unit. The only goal is to be 2-0. So about the time you say, yeah, let's jump on them early, and you're down 10-0, what we actually we call anything that happens early in a ball game an imposter. Because if we return the opening kickoff back for a touchdown, or they return the opening kickoff back for a touchdown, that may not have anything to do with the game. It's just the first play. So let's understand that everything that happens early is an imposter, and I think this is going to be a really physical game. It's going to be a tough game, and I think it'll be a fourth quarter game.
You said a couple of times that this is like a new opener. The guys yesterday were talking about that, and I think Tamon even said that he senses the guys a little bit antsy, which is kind of typical building up to an opener. Are you seeing similarities to the way the guys are leading into this game that you typically see before an opener?
Yes, no, absolutely. There's no question, and we're having to look at all the things that you talk about in an opening game. We're going back to it because 3 weeks is a long time. It's more like an opening game or a bowl game because you've been off so long, and you've just practiced and tried to keep your conditioning. And I think all of that's been done really well. Who knows whether it's a better advantage for them to play 2 weeks in a row and win, or for us to have played 3 weeks ago and been practicing for 3 weeks. You would think it would be an advantage for them to play instead of being off like us. But any of those things we're not going to use as an excuse. That's why we said it was an opening game and we're restarting. And it seems like forever that we played Syracuse. I've seen Syracuse play 2 games since ours. So it's just very, I think we'll all mark 2020 down as a very unique year. and ours has started the same way.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to Chapel Fowler.
Hey, Coach. Phil Longo on Monday spoke about wide receiver depth and kind of maximizing reps there and how important that is to his philosophy. How have you seen that help you guys last year and this year so far?
Chapel, I've always been told by the older guys, and I've always felt that when you look at a position group, if they all look alike, then you're probably recruiting the right way. And that's really important. So our outside guys are tall, our slots are shorter, and they're really, really quick and fast. So I feel really, really good about that position group. We actually rate our different units on our team, and that one's obviously one of the best right now because we do have depth. And as much as we throw it and as much as we spread out and as fast as we go, we didn't have the opportunity to take Dez or Diami or Bo out of the game much last year. So that should be a great advantage for us right now that we can substitute and do not feel like there's a huge drop off.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, JB Ricks, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Always a pleasure to see you, and thank you for taking out the time. I wanted to know, with all the anxiety your team has had to overcome with not playing over the past 2+ weeks, now we're about 2-3 days away from you guys finally playing again. Are you worried about your players getting that anxiety back at all as we get closer to game day, especially with how unpredictable this season has been, with teams having to cancel 1 or 2-3 days before, their next scheduled game? Are you worried about dealing with that aspect in the next few days?
JB, I'm really not, because I've watched them practice for the last 2 days. And if they were down, or if midterms had taken their focus away, but I like what I see, and they're going to be excited about Saturday. And I told them yesterday, and these are facts, that until Saturday morning, we really don't know if we're going to play. And then you don't know who's going to coach the game. And then you don't know who's going to play in the game until we get the test results back. So that's just what it is. And that's kind of the way we've handled it. We have sudden change on the field when there's a turnover with the offense. The defense has got to go out and score, or vice versa. This is a year of sudden change. It is a year of sudden change. So if we get up on Saturday morning and I've got the virus and I can't coach, we've got to be quick to make some changes. And that could happen to anybody at any time. So you've just got to be prepared for everything. And whatever happens, you've got to handle it. You can't panic, and you can't say, "Oh my gosh, somebody's out." You got to go. We've told our players, next man up. There's never been a time in college football where cross training and additional depth is more important than right now. And the same thing with your coaching staff. They've really got to stand up and help each other. And we've challenged them everybody to try to stay safe. But who knows? It seems so easy to catch this virus that any of us could get it at any time.
My follow-up question to that is, you just mentioned you could come up with a positive test on game day or whatnot. Do you have a plan in place if that happens to you or one of your coaches, and are you willing to share that information with us?
Yes and no. We do have a plan in place, and I'm not planning on having to use it. So this is about the only time I take my mask off is to eat and talk to you all. So I'm planning on being out there, and it would be disruptive to your staff in some ways, JB, if you started talking about who would take your place the 10 days that you'd be out, and who would be this and who would be that. So we have a plan. I've talked to the coordinators about it, and we really haven't talked that much about it with anybody else other than the one that would be stepping in.
Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you.
Let's go to Greg Barnes. Greg, go ahead.
Hey, Mac. With regard to the travel logistics that you were talking about, how are some of those decisions being made? And with there being so many games already played this year across the country, has there been a collaborative effort amongst programs trying to figure out what works best in these situations?
Greg, we've talked to people every week that have played, and ask them what's different. Is there something we need to know? And we've gotten a few ideas, like the one early that you can't hear the whistles. And now a lot of people are going back to the old whistle that you put in your mouth, because it's just been a very difficult transition for those handheld whistles. The other thing is that we constantly talk to people who have had positives and try to figure out how and why. So coaches are sharing with each other probably off the field more than ever before, but the decisions are all made by the medical people. It's the way I understand it, it's your local health department and your medical staff. So Dr. Sioka for us and Luke, and we have a committee that looks at this each week, and that's Rick Steinbacher and Dwight Hollier and Corey Holliday and Luke and Dr. Sioka. And then they work with the local director of the local health department, Orange County Health Department, to see exactly what needs to be done to keep our guys safe. And like we said, for since this is our first time on a plane, and you're going to be sitting social distance, but still on a plane with someone social distance away from you for more than 15 minutes, then the health department has told us we need to wear the N95 mask. And if that's the safest thing to do, that's what we're going to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Next up is Alyssa Ray. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach, to have the opener that Javonte Williams did, what do you hope to see from him this weekend and really the rest of your backfield?
Alyssa, I think he's really good. And I like Javonte and Michael Carter so much. They're maybe the best position on our team because we have depth. They're both really good. They're different. But you get Javonte downhill outside on those flares. Now, some of those safeties aren't excited about coming up to see him. And also, he's such a powerful runner inside with our power and our counter game. And then Michael's got such patience that he can wait inside, and he's powerful for a smaller back as well. So I really like those two guys. And there's no question that for us to win the game, they have to touch the ball a whole lot.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Over to Ross Martin. Go ahead, Ross.
Hey, Coach. We were talking to Brian Anderson yesterday, and he said there hasn't really been anyone stepping up on offensive line to get to that kind of 8-9 depth number that you want, that you wanted at the beginning of the season. With 9 weeks of practice now before your second game, where do you feel the depth of the offensive line is, especially considering Zudu, I guess questionable, or wait and see on Saturday?
Yeah, Ross, it's the biggest concern we have really is the depth in our offensive line. And we do have some guys coming, and they are getting better, and we'll get some guys healthy. The thing that hurt us the most was Josh Azudu, who played 4 positions for us, not being out there for the last couple of weeks and now trying to get back in. So when he gets 100% and he's out there all the time, we'll be a lot better off. But we still need a few of those other guys that I mentioned. Some of them are real young. Some of them have been hurt. It's been a position where it hasn't worked very well for us so far this year. So we've got to get some of those guys to keep coming.
And with the position changes in the secondary with Conley and Morrison, how do you feel about that group right now after getting a full week of practice, or parts of 2 weeks here? See those two guys and how they work in with the group.
I feel really good about our secondary, and that shows you how programs need to be handled with recruiting. You've got to have enough depth. We've lost 4 guys in the secondary, and we're still in great shape, at least 2 deep, and in some places 3 deep. So that is a position of power right now, like our running back position. So we feel really, really good about those guys. Don Chapman is playing at a very high level. Trey Morrison's such a unique young man that he plays everywhere, and I'm so proud of him. He can go back to corner today if we need him to, and with COVID, cross training is so important that he's like easy in that backfield. He can play everywhere. But you start looking at Cam Kelly is coming fast. He and Patrice were a little bit slower on their recovery, I think because we didn't have spring where they could work out with their trainers. So they were a little behind, but they're catching up. And then you've got Welton Spotsville that we moved over from receiver to defensive back. He's doing really well. So I feel really, really good right now about not only the depth in our secondary, but the talent. And that will make our team so much better over time because those really good receivers we talked about early are having to compete with those really good defensive backs every minute of every day. And that's been fun to watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's wrap it up today with Mark Armstrong. Mark, go ahead.
Mac, I'm going to give you a nice, soft, fluffy one here to finish. Tomas mentioned the other day when we were asking him about making that first road trip, but there are guys on the team who've never even been on a plane. That had just never occurred to me. Is that part of the kind of small joys of coaching, is seeing these kinds of life experiences for your players?
Mark, it is. The large majority of our team has not been to Boston. So that's going to be unique for them, and it'll be different, but they'll see Boston flying in. You've got the guys that have never been on a flight. They'll be sitting there, and now you got a social distance. They used to be grabbing somebody's arm next to them or holding their hand and closing their eyes. And it's been fun to watch. I remember Marcus Jones was a great player for us. He'd never been on a flight, and we were flying to Tallahassee, and there was a lot of fog. We were flying in on Friday night, and they actually averted the flight and went back up, and he screamed. And then after the game, he said, "I am not getting back on that plane." I said, "Well, but it's a long ride home on the bus." So he wanted to go with the equipment staff to get home. So there are some experiences that come in with these guys. But it is one of the joys in coaching to try to help all these guys get through this adversity with their families and see what all the problems our country's got right now, and understanding that we were all 18 to 22 at one point in our lives, and none of us ever experienced any of this. So I really feel like when I get down a little bit, Mark, that this is a great reason for me to be back in coaching, is that these kids need leadership. They need somebody to stand up and be strong and try to help them through all this. And that's something that I'm really appreciating and enjoying doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Great. I would say I'll see everybody in Boston, but I guess I'll see you on our weekly Zoom after the game. So, and I would say travel safe, but I'm not even doing that anymore. So enjoy your Saturday, and I'll talk to you after the game. Let's put it that way.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep. Thank you,
Thank
Mac.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, back. Safe travels.